Hello, welcome to Scrap Time, episode 918. My name is Christine, and on today's episode, Marah Johnson is teaching us all about the splash of color silks.
So one of the reasons that the silks acrylics, there's a glaze, work so well for us and have blown up. Okay, they're only about 18 months old, maybe a little bit more. Forgive me if I can't remember exactly. But the reason they do so well is because it's using a pure pigment and a carrier. There's no water for added volume. Okay? And the reason that works great and it makes people happy is when you have water on paper, that's when the buckling happens. And in most cases, especially with mixed media or within paper crafting, people don't have access, or maybe not the knowledge of what different papers are. Meaning 100-pound paper, 200-pound paper, that makes no sense to anybody, right? They just want to make something. So the easiest way for me to show how this doesn't buckle is to use vintage books, because you know when you get a book wet, what happens? It buckles. Always, right? So you're reading a book by the pool, get it wet, it's instant bucklage. Because it's a pure pigment, that beautifulness right there, when you blend colors, they never get muddy. Because when we use, for example, if you're making pink paint, we're not taking a red pigment, mixing it with white to create pink. It is a pigment that has been blended that creates the pink, right? So there's not going to be any mud. So when you layer colors together or you're blending them, it's like laying down sheets of glass on top of each other, which eventually you're not really going to be able to see through. And if you blend, browns and purples and oranges or whatever, you'll make a brown, but it won't be a swamp thing. You know what I mean? It's going to be a clean, crystally clear brown, right? Which, no matter what, brown is beautiful. But brown, when it has white in it and a little bit of all these little colors, it starts looking muddy. We don't want that. So to give you an idea of how that works, we're going to go ahead and lay it down. So on my book. Silks came by the name because it lays down smooth as silk, literally. Okay, no brush stroke. And I can, because there's no water, immediately dip my brush into the next color. This is one of my favorite colors and one of our better sellers, the Prettier Peridot. How beautiful is that? Take a little bit and go ahead and lay it right down. And then to prove the point of it not creating mud, I'm going to start layering colors going the opposite direction. So an orange over top of green would normally create brown, right? Or some shade of brown. But if we do this, it is not. So, and you can see several layers, and my paper is still smooth, right? Which is great for card making, or art journaling or things like that, so that you have, if you want to do a background and it goes into your books or into your pages, it stays flat. You're not fighting with it, trying to fight with your adhesive to keep it flat and smooth. And with a lot of people, just the buckling itself is frustrating. So we've tried to take the frustration process out. And the other frustration process is blending color, because you learned the color wheel in kindergarten and then proceeded to forget it the next year. And then when you get to be an adult, you think too much, and so then you won't do it. So the idea here is to actually experiment with color. Okay, so now I'm going to take pink, and if I took pink and I went across all these three colors, again, you're going to get different shades of brown or something wrong, right? In your head, you would think that. But here, it's not. So now basically the idea is, no matter what you do, you're creating pretty. So where it's all different colors, it becomes almost opalescent, kind of. Right. I mean, like a dark fire opal, which is, who doesn't love opals? So if you can't actually go buy the ring, you can at least paint it, right? So that's kind of cool. No matter what, you're not going to be able to make mud. She or he cannot make mud. No matter how hard you try, your color is still going to be pretty. And that in itself is a selling point, along with the thing that it doesn't get all buckly.
Right.
Okay. The other beauty of silks is that it's acrylic. So everybody understands, most everybody, understands acrylic paint. So you've gone to Michael's, you've gone, or some store, and you have bought the 99-cent acrylic, because it goes on everything. It goes on wood and chipboard and you name it, right? If you can hold it still, you can paint on it.
Yes.
Same with this. But if you noticed, the first color that you put down, it was like semi-transparent. But as it keeps going, it becomes more and more opaque. So ours is a little different than the typical acrylic paint because at first it can be like a glaze, or if you really want something intense, you can keep building the color up and it will look just like that. Or that. You know what I mean? Yes. So you have, it has more personalities than a typical paint because of that ability to be a little bit more versatile than regular paint would be.
Right.
And it works very well with. So if you have somebody that says, well, I want to do a little project and I have acrylic paint. They have opaque. You put that down and then layer coats it right over top and it kind of gives it a little bit of translucence. So people will create something like maybe a fish and then paint the scales over top. Just a little wash of coat and it gives it that iridescence. Yeah, it makes texture and depth of color. All of them have the micas that are mixed in with them. And the reason, again, one of the other reasons that our paint does really well, there is mica paint on the markets. So for example, there's Lumiere, there's Jacquard, and we all have these beautiful colors. We really do. And the one thing that I think makes ours have a kind of an interesting personality is that each one has mica that was picked and chosen specifically for the personality of that color. So when you turn these upside down, for example, on this golden monarch, you'll see it's kind of a greenish kind of color, but with a little bit of a warm mica. But if you were to pick up Harvest Soul or another one, it would be a similar color background, but it'd have a little bit more of an Indian summer colored mica. So they're always different. You know. Anyways, that's silks. Hope you enjoy. Make some pretty things. Have a good day.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Be sure to check out our website at www.scraptime.ca. And on our next episode, Wendy Vecchi is showing us her Stamp It, Stencil It. So please join us. Thanks for watching Scrap Time.